think that we can already start. So from now, you have your dedicated group of attendees, which you have now for 15 minutes, and then we will change. So first, I will let the speakers introduce themselves very quickly and say what they are doing for their company. And then after that, attendees, please share your questions, and you can write them on the Q&A chat, or if you want, you can join the stage with the speakers and have an informal conversation also with you on the stage. If you want to do this, please raise your hand. You have a button next to your emoji of reactions, I think. So there, raise your hand, and I will accept you to join the stage. Okay? So yes, I will say maybe let's start with Daniel, if you can present a little bit yourself.
Okay, I'm Daniel Serra. I'm the director for the South Europe of AET Urban Mobility. AET Urban Mobility is an independent organization, part of the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. We are an instrument of the European Union to transform, in our case, mobility in cities. We are receiving funds from the European Union, and with those funds, what we are doing is we try to transform the cities. We create a community. We have the biggest community for stakeholders around the urban mobility. We have universities, we have research organizations, we have industry, also we have the cities, obviously. And with them, we try to innovate, okay? And we are doing basically in three ways. The first one is to create innovation projects where we try to explore solutions for cities and test it in cities. The other one is we are creating academy activities like master programs, PhD, training networks, or training for professionals. And the third one is that we are supporting and financing startups. 2019 was when we were funded, 2020 the first year. During this year, we have supported around 75 European startups. And that means that we know what today is happening in the urban mobility field. And that's all, Mireia. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next, maybe Stefan.
Yeah, let me try to share my screen. Let's see. Does that work? Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we see your whole screen. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, okay. So I'm Stefan Schäfer. I'm a digital expert at AFRY. I'm a computer scientist by trade, and I have joined AFRY just recently as the head of future cities and mobility. I've been working on future cities and mobility since more than 15 years at various companies and startups. Now, AFRY is a company that's based in Sweden. It's already more than 100 years old. The predecessors, the name AFRY and the brand, that's new. We have 17,000 experts and are doing 2 billion euros revenue per year. We are also covering a lot of countries, as you can see here, and we have 4 themes within our management consulting division. So I'm part of that, and there you can see the future cities and mobility expertise cluster that I'm heading. And we'll go into some themes in a moment. We also look at the energy transition. So we work a lot on decarbonization and sustainability projects overall. We also, on the right here, you see the type of consulting we're doing. So for example, it could be strategy consulting or market analysis. So we do projections about, for example, take up of electric mobility and so forth, but also assist in merger and acquisitions or do due diligences of established companies and startups. In the future cities and mobility expertise cluster, we work around a number of themes. So a lot of it has to do with mobility, new mobility concepts, the 15-minute city, and how does it change, for example, the reallocation of urban space. Then electric mobility is a big theme of passenger cars as well as for buses, on-demand transport, or autonomous transport. I've been working myself on autonomous transport and have worked with a company deploying a number of those in New Zealand and Australia. We're also working on transport technologies, mobility as a service, these kind of things. And if you want to connect, please look me up on LinkedIn and or reach out over email. Thank you.
Great, thanks a lot, Stefan. So now, Rui, if you can present also a little bit very quickly.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rui Fernandez. I am the CEO of Buzzup. We are a startup that has headquarters in Barcelona. Basically, we are a transport service provider. We're specialized in the management of shared shuttle programs for corporates, basically for daily commute. We position ourselves like a layer between the corporate and the bus provider. And our goal is to help our corporates, our clients, to run a sustainable shuttle service. It means that at a reasonable price, efficient and available. It means that very easy to use, accessible, and overall sustainable in all these aspects, not only environmental but also social and financially.
Great. Okay. So now, attendees, please, what are your thoughts on that aspect? You're free to ask questions to the speakers about their work or about the topic of society and mobility. There were a lot of questions before in the fireside, so I hope you kept them. So we have one question from Hermes. Hermes, do you want to join stage? Because if you want, I can invite you. If not, I can read the question out loud. So if you want to join stage, just raise your hand in your screen. Okay, hand. He's joining stage now.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. My question would have been about the role of public institutions and governments in this new transition towards this new way of mobility. And more specifically, my question would be what governments are currently doing overall in Europe, and if there are specific projects that are tackling this new opportunity or these problems. And in that specific case, what are the main showstoppers for public institutions to tackle these challenges?
I can start with that. I'm working on several projects. For example, one I can talk about is a project with the city of Munich, and they are creating a new neighborhood for 30,000 people that is brand new. It doesn't exist at the moment. And so it's going to be a car-reduced neighborhood. Actually, the first people have moved in maybe 1,000 or so, but that's going to grow very quickly in the next 10 years. And so the neighborhood's going to be car reduced in the sense that there are very small roads, very good bike paths, walking paths, and then they're looking for alternative modes of transport, which we are going to help them with, we are helping them with. So what are, for example, how is car sharing, bike sharing, scooters going to work, public transport, how can that be made approachable? So there are many projects like this where cities have realized they need to become active and are changing the way how people live and how people, access mobility services.
Okay, on my hand, one of the things that we are seeing in the cities that where we operate is that, especially in Europe, and I would say Spain and Portugal mostly, governments are trying to find ways to collaborate with private companies such as Buzzup. And I'm going to give you an example of a couple of projects that we're running both in Lisbon as well as in Barcelona and Madrid. The governments are trying to somehow subsidize companies to create sustainable mobility solutions for the daily commute. That doesn't mean give money for you to spend whatever you want. It means that you invest and then I'll deduct that part of that cost, in this case 33% of the commute sharing cost, on taxes. So basically what we're seeing is that governments are potentiating, on our case, share shuttle programs on suburbs of major cities, especially on industrial and business parks. So if a company creates a shared route for a business park, then 33% of that cost can be deducted on taxes. And they have funds that actually, there are a lot of projects on the recovery funds from the European Commission on this sense, in order to potentiate, because one of the biggest challenges is when you start, normally the routes are not sustainable, because that's a lot of cost and not that many users. So basically they're trying to compensate this by incentivizing companies. And we are part of a couple of projects in Spain and Portugal.
Great. Anything to add, Daniel?
Yeah, just one thing that we are discussing with many European cities, and I think cities right now they are looking to innovate more, and the way to innovate for cities is to collaborate more with the private sector. They see some trends and challenge coming, and obviously they cannot face by themselves. They have limited resources and knowledge. Yeah, that's especially on South Europe, you know. But what I think cities are really leading is, as Stefan say, they are transforming the model of the cities. They are creating completely new models. We here in Barcelona, we have the Superblocks model that you don't know, you can Google it, but you can see that there are completely a model without cars, you know, and using the public space in another use. This will be escalated in a big area of the city, transforming how the street will look like in the next 20, 30 years. That means that it's not the reason just to eliminate cars, it's just to reorganize the public space. That means that if we have a model that many cities are trying to promote, what we need to do is to provide technology, to provide solutions, help the citizens to change their behavior, and this will not be only a role of the city halls or the administrations.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. So we have one more question, but I think that we should choose who answers it. It's from Andreas. Andreas, if you want to join stage, please raise your hand. If not, I will read your question. It says, okay, he raised his hand. So now I think that one or two, most of you should answer the question just to keep on schedule. But he will say it now. We have another question from Stefano, so maybe we can do one answer for each question so that everybody can have their answer. So Andreas, you're in stage. Can you talk?
Do you hear me? Oh, yes. Great. I see me. I hope you do too. Maybe a more personal question here from the perspective of someone who just finished studying. From all the relevant fields right now, like I posted a few, like food, agriculture, fishing, poverty, diseases, digitalization, mobility. Why did you dedicate your life towards mobility? And what drives your dedication here?
For me, it's as a software guy, and mobility is very exciting from the perspective what's happening with the data. So moving objects and getting a real-time picture of what's going on there and putting business models behind that. That's what I want to do.
Well, in my case, being an engineer, I have like a more blocked, I would say, a more limited way of thinking, on a more like quantifying things. So what mobility allows me, and I always like to think about how to make sense to connections and to relations between a lot of players, making like a supply chain, how that supply chain can be sustainable somehow. And mobility has a lot of opportunities on this field to how to connect every stakeholder. Especially on the era that we're living right now, it's like everything is popping up. So it's very, very exciting. I didn't choose mobility just because I said that would be I think my history, my professional history took me there. You end up finding your way, the things that you like to do most. But right now, I would say that mobility is like popping up, like it's like Santa Claus, it's Christmas.
In my case, I will be very quick. Coming from the automotive industry, but around 15 years ago, I realized that automotive will be like Kodak. Will be with an industry with an end. And I realized that that something was coming, and I think there's a lot of things to change on the mobility, and it's very complex. And but also in my case, I put a lot of passion, and also I love technology. That means that technology will help the city mobility to make it better. And I think it's you can start to explore urbanism, architecture, technological things, data, behavioral society challenge. There are many things, and I think for me it's a passion right now.
Great, thanks.
Thanks for your answer.
So I see that a lot of people is joining already from the other rotation. So the ones in society, please move to the next one, except Stefano, I know you have a question. Stay here, you can ask it. But the rest, please go to environmental.
Sure, I'll be very quick. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. My question is regarding people. We've told about the people in the equation before, and so my question is related to you is, how do you think to handle the people in the equation? So how would you raise the awareness and the commitment of the people to this new way of mobility, which is, I think, the key factor to help this transition happening?
I think we need to involve from the beginning in all the process. It's crucial, the citizen engagement part. If we go, 10 years ago, and we have a e-scooter, how we can implement much better that we have it, we do it today. And I think the key point will be to understand that it's a need of the citizens, but this is something that the city halls never understand it. They never see that it's a reality. And today our cities are, it's booming the e-scooters, and they cannot control, and they are having problems with safety. They never understand the citizen, and if you go for a more technological topic like the autonomous driving, you need to convince the citizen that they will have a benefit and not to be scared of autonomous driving. That means that in the first test, you need to involve, you need to talk with them. I think this will be, something very, very important on this transition. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great. So now, yes, Stefano, please go to environment, and the next is already here. We have around 25
We
people
stay
now.
here.
Sorry?
We stay here.
Yeah, you stay. You don't move. But maybe now you have to repeat yourself again because we have a new group. So if you want to do the introductions again, maybe we could make them shorter now that we have more experience. But yes, let's do it the same way, if you agree. So
Okay.
first, Daniel, please present very quickly yourself and what you do.
Okay, I'm Daniel Serra. I'm an engineer with an MBA. Right now I'm the director of the EIT Mobility for the South of Europe. EIT is an organization that is part of the European Institute of Technology. We are an arm of the European Union to improve innovation. In our case, in cities, we started in 2019. We have European funds to transform mobility in cities. With these European funds, we are creating communities and with these communities, we support the transformation for cities. We are doing innovation, just trying to find new solutions for cities and testing in cities. On the other hand, we also creating academy programs like master programs, PhD training networks, and training for professionals. And also one of the most important things that we are doing is we are supporting startups in all the phases, from early stage to more mature startups. And this year, that was basically our first year, 2020, the year before, we have supported around 75 startups, and we funded we fund 10 startups. And we are working in a very close cooperation with cities. That means that we are starting with challenge from cities, and with this challenge, we try to implement innovation, and that's what we are doing. Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Sorry, Stefan.
Yes, I'm Stefan Schaefer. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
I'm a computer scientist by trade, and have started 20 years ago with mobile internet and Internet of Things, and then over time, 15 years ago or so, I moved into mobility and smart cities. I'm now quite recently I've joined A3. I'm head of future cities and mobility, and I want to show you what we are doing there. So first, A3 is a company that has been founded more than 100 years ago from other companies. We have now just in 2019 joined these companies and came up with this new name. We have 17,000 employees and make more than 2 billion euros revenue per year. We have, within these 17,000, we have a management consulting group. I'm part of that, and I'm heading the future cities and mobility space, which is one of several topics around sustainability, energy transition, and we do, for example, strategy consulting, we do market analysis, and we also help with due diligence and merger and transaction and acquisitions when companies are sold. Our themes in mobility and future cities are around these topics here. So we have projects in these spaces. So, for example, 15-minute cities and the reallocation of space. Electric mobility is a hot topic at the moment around electric passenger cars or buses. Transport technologies, autonomous transport. I've been working myself a lot on this, also deploying electric cars in electric shuttles in New Zealand and Australia. If you want to link up with me, here's my, look me up on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Stefan. So yes, now Rui, please.
Hi everybody, I'm Rui Fernandez. I am the CEO of Buzzup. It's a Spanish startup settled in Barcelona. We're a transport service provider. Basically, we're specialized in the management of shared shuttle programs for corporates for their daily commute to take them back and forward to work every day. Basically, put ourselves like a layer between corporate and bus providers. That means that we don't have buses. And our goal is to run sustainable shuttle services, means on cost, efficiency, and availability. And when we mean sustainable, we'll mean that not only environmentally speaking, but also on socially and financially, in order to be sustainable in the long run.
Great, thanks a lot. So we have already the first question. So I am inviting Friedrich, if you can join stage, if you want. Okay, so I think he should be now here, and we can start.
Yeah, I guess here I am. So we have been talking a lot about mobility in future cities, and my question is, what future mobility concepts can attract rural communities? Because yeah, I think that's a like totally different society regarding structure and the whole setting.
So if I can make a start. So, well, first of all, we are not talking about rural so much because not so many people it's fewer and fewer people living in rural places. And especially then, and there's not so much pressure there in terms of congestion and, poor air quality and so forth. But certainly there are also important solutions that can be rolled out there. Autonomous driving is going to be one of it, and also the electric eVTOLs, flying cars eventually are also a good way to connect remote places. And of course, rail is certainly going to be something also that will always be. Daniel, I think you're on mute.
I want to add one thing that for not the urban areas, one thing that I think we will see is that the on-demand mobility. I think a more flexible mobility with on-demand buses, for example, that is something that is already implemented in some cities, because I think this will reduce some of the costs and also give much more better services. On the other hand, I think the air mobility could be something that will be really interesting and more easy to implement in rural areas, okay, especially for delivery. That means that if you have a drone that could deliver a package, for rural areas will be very interesting, yeah. And let's see what happens with COVID, because maybe more people will go to rural areas. I think connectivity should be there, but also we need to provide, mobility there. Yeah, let's see.
Just to add one thing, I think that there are two steps into not solving but trying to improve the mobility on rural areas. One is before and after autonomous vehicles can be a really solution, especially on rural areas where you have more difficult roads. So it's not that easy to implement an autonomous vehicle because you cannot predict that well. So until then, what we see is I don't know if the word is like demand response, like planned. I mean, if you want something, you just go to an app or to somebody, say, tomorrow I want to go to shopping, or I want to go downtown, or I want to go here. So you have like algorithms that recreate the most optimal routes, and then they launch the proper vehicles based on that demand, the pre-booked demand. Okay, that will be the most sustainable, because on rural areas you don't have critical mass to just run around a bus whenever you need, or especially if you click a button and it deviates to pick you up, it's still empty all the rest of the time. So I believe on a more planned journey until we have autonomous that will do the same but cheaper.
Great. Does this answer your question, Frederick?
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you very much.
Perfect. So we have a question from Ajinkia, but I don't think she's joining stage, so I'll just read it out loud. What about impact on society of e-mobility trucks, equipment operating in cities in silent zones with e-mobility? So silent operation and non-rush hours would be a possibility?
Yeah, for sure. I think the night delivery is something that we have tested. We made some projects with, especially with electrical vehicles, and I think for sure this will solve one of the problems that we have today in cities. That is during not the peak hours we have an increase of logistic, mobility, and I think this could solve some of the project. I think also something another trend is that the hydrogen. I think it could go directly apply for long distance, and that could be trucks could be one of them that will use this technology, like trains and buses, and I think this is something that it's also will have a high impact on the environment.
There are also projects underway, for example, for garbage collection using electric trucks, which is very CO2, greenhouse gas intensive at the moment, and noisy.
One of the things that I think that some projects are, I don't know exactly the names of the project, but some things are being worked, and I have heard about, is that it makes no sense for DHL, FedEx, UPS, all running around the same route every day within the city. So at the end, what I think cities are trying to do is to concentrate all the delivery into a specific route. And I don't know if they will run it or they will make a public contest to run that route. But at the end, it makes no sense for 5 trucks to be half full or half empty running around the same road. Obviously, not peak hours, that's an obvious thing, but I think that there's a lot of efficiency yet to be reached on especially on the delivery of these, especially with the Amazons and everything that is popping up with the e-commerce. And if you put on those deliveries electric vehicles, I mean, you have like a full truck running around on that road, no sound, no nothing, and very efficient, very full, basically.
I think the first solution of autonomous vehicles we will see in last mile solutions for logistics.
That will be, and you add that autonomous, and you will have a perfect. I think it will be like public contents that the city of Barcelona launches a public contest for these specific routes with e-vehicle, e-trucks, self-drive or not, for this route, and all the delivery companies need to put that packages somewhere so they could be delivered, because it makes no sense to have a lot of. You can reduce a lot of trucks and a lot of vehicles.
Great, thanks a lot. Sorry, I need to tell the people in this session to move if they didn't yet. I'm not seeing the people that are in right now. I think I have a back. But yes, please move. And there's some questions, so the people that have questions, they can stay. I see Christopher, Nikolai, and Francesco who ask questions. Please raise your hand. If you want to join the stage, please do it, and I will give you the stage. If not, I will read them out loud. Okay, Christopher is joining the stage. I'm sorry, I cannot see now how many people we are for some reason. So I'm not sure if the rotation was made, but please do it. Okay, yeah. Great. So then I think the rotation 23. Was... Okay. So yeah, Christopher, take the stage, then I will go to Nikolai.
Yeah, my question was, how do you see a technology like Hyperloop be integrated in current solutions of mobility? Because also in the other breakout session, we have been talking a lot about cars, buses, but we've never been really on the rail side of things. How do you see like faster rail travel as a possibility? Also,
very good point.
Cargo. Solution.
Very good point. I see this is highly relevant. Rail transport is so much more efficient. Well, from some perspective, it's more efficient than road, because you have higher safety, higher throughput, more people can be moved at the same time. Hyperloop is a good concept. I think it's going to show up in several places, and there are also other concepts based on rail, also autonomous. Also, I've seen one concept that is small cabins for maybe 2 people or 4 people, but on rail, and going autonomously through a city as well. So rail is really important in the city and outside.
I agree. I think the Hyperloop it could have a big effect on long distance. That's I think the only thing that I see that it could have problems is that if it really works, why we will need trains, and what we make with the train industry. I think this is the same that would happen with the autonomous driving, that it's killing the car ownership and the industry that we have in Europe today for the car industry and the ownership, because basically with what they are doing, selling cars to private users, it's quite big. And I think as a society we need to make these questions, okay, how we can make this transformation process. Yeah? But I think we have one Hyperloop organization here in Spain that it's they developed the first concept of capture, and it's great what they are doing, and if it works, I think it will be a big change in the way we move.
No, just to add that at the end, if the Hyperloop solution ends up being feasible on technically level and on the financial level, which I think it will, but it will require some time yet. It will be another way of transport that may compete with trains or not, depending on the distance. So I think they will have their own space on the mobility ecosystem. And that will probably be a distance between point A and point B that has specific characteristics. And if it's shorter or larger, you need planes or trains or metro or whatever.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, you can't see my description, but I'm actually electrical engineer in Hart Hyperloop in Netherlands. That's more of a personal question in that case. Yeah.
Okay, we will follow you. We will follow you. That's
okay.
Maybe we need to make some questions to you, not you to us.
Well, we get the chance later today.
Yeah. Okay, so thanks a lot. I think the rotation was made, so I would like to give the speakers a chance to again present themselves to this group of people. Just very quickly, if you can, maybe we can start with Stefan this time, and then Daniel, and then Rui. It's okay.
Oops. No.
Yeah.
I'm Stefan Schaefer. I'm a computer scientist by trade, a digital expert, and have studied business informatics. I'm heading at AFRI, the Future Cities and Mobility Consulting, the expertise cluster. And AFRI is a company that has been founded more than 100 years ago, but under a different name. The name is relatively new, only 1 year old. And as you can see, it's a large company, 17,000 people altogether. We do projects in more than 100 countries and have more than 2 billion euros revenue per year. Those are our themes, and or some of them. We have more, but in the area where I'm working, we really do all about the energy transition and sustainability projects. And here in my group, in the Future Cities and Mobility, we do a number of solutions in this space. I'm going to show you some examples in a moment. We do strategy consulting, we do market analysis, and also help with, for example, transactions when companies are sold or that sort of thing. Our projects are around these topics. A lot have to do at the moment with new mobility concepts, the new allocation of space, and also a lot of electric mobility projects for passenger cars and buses, autonomous driving. I've been working on this myself. I have deployed shuttles in New Zealand and Australia. And those are our themes in a broad sense. And if you want to connect, look me up on LinkedIn or send me an email to afree.com, Stefan Schaefer. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Okay, let's go to Daniel and Rui very quickly.
Hi, I'm Daniel Serra. I'm an industrial engineer with an MBA. I'm already the director for the South of Europe of the EH Urban Mobility. We are an arm or part of the European Institute of Technology and Innovation. We are trying to improve the mobility in cities, and we are receiving European funds just to make this process of transformation in cities, and with that we create the largest community of companies and institutions in the mobility field. Basically, we are doing innovation projects, just trying to transform and to find solutions for cities and implement it. On the other hand, we have academic programs. We have our master programs, PhD training networks, and trainings for professionals. And the last but not least, we are supporting startups. This is one of our ways to transform and the mobility, because we think that there will be a lot of business on the future mobility needs. And the first year that because we are a very early stage, a very young organization, we have supported around 75 startups, and we fund 10 startups, and we are quite new on the urban mobility field, but I think in the next year you will see a lot of things doing by the EH Urban Mobility.
Great, thank you, Daniel. Rui?
Hi, everybody.
Chance?
My name is Rui Fernandez. I am the CEO of Buzzup. We're a startup from Barcelona, Spain. Basically, we dedicate to the transport. We're a transport service provider. Basically, we specialize in the management of shared shuttle programs for corporates to run their daily commute services. Basically, we put ourselves like a layer between the corporate and the bus provider to run effectively or more efficiently the commute services. Basically, what we try to, our goal is to create sustainable shuttle services, shared shuttle services, and that means environmentally speaking, socially speaking, and also financially speaking. I mean that they need to be optimized so that the cost can be affordable for companies and passengers. Needs to be efficient in order to pick up the people as close to their houses as possible and available to everybody as much as possible.
Great. So now let's go to the questions directly. We agreed to continue the session until 35. Okay. So Nikolai had a question that, but he's on the train, so I will read it out loud. It's what is your impression on urban air mobility, UAV, like Lilium or Volocopter? They promise to be a solution for all people, but personally, I think they are rather going to be a solution for a few people as a luxury service. What do you think of that?
I would agree with that view. So it's not the urban traffic doesn't scale up as much as, for example, underground or bus work. Yeah, but still, it is an interesting option for areas that are not, well linked through road infrastructure, and so it is going to be also a lot less costly producing such a vehicle, and then after a while operating it, so it will be affordable for many.
I think like everything that we've been told or been said up to this moment. Right now, there's a mobility boom. Like everybody's trying a lot of different mobility solutions: air, land, ground, sea. There are commute boats. Imagine if you have a river, you can have commute boats. You don't have to think about shuttle. You can also think about buses or boats or whatever. And obviously, air it's another one. But at the end, ultimately, when that space is defined and the trials have ended, it will be reduced to a profit and loss account. I mean, is it sustainable or not? Not only environmentally, because they could be electric, but also financially. And at the end, if there's somebody that is willing to pay to move electric on air or to transport things on air, to have it faster, and then you have a niche that will be sustainable, but is yet to see. I think that right now a lot of things are trying to find his place in the world.
I think that the cities wants to explore and to regulate this 3D level of the city. Okay, yes, that's basically is the air, and I think the impact will be on the logistics because for example, it could be solutions for moving things in the city much more faster. But for example, just think about if we are, for example, all the emergency services in the city we have over the air. This could improve a lot, the way that we help people, and that means that there will be users that it will be interesting. On the other one, as Rui said, this business, and I think there's some need to a premium, transport service, and you see this company like Lilium or Volocopter, they are increasing and receiving a lot of funds. That means that there are people willing to have this on the cities. And finally, I see that this is something that is coming. We are working on with a task force and with several partners, and I think we will see first for example in cities soon.
Actually, just to make a fun history. I used in São Paulo once it was not Volocopter, but it was something else. But because I was late to the airport because of a meeting, and I need to get to the airport to come back to Barcelona, I was in São Paulo, and the only way to get to the airport is 3-hour traffic or 20 minutes chopper, and so I paid 200 euros for a chopper. So that was very cool. Otherwise, I would never catch that airplane. So I think that depending on the circumstances, you may use one thing or the other.
Great, thanks a lot, guys. We have another question from Francesco, PhD student, Imperial College London. Francesco, can you please ask to join stage if you want? If not, please ask, please raise your hand if you can. If not, I will read it out loud. So I don't have a raising of hands for now, so I will just read it. It says, are experts thinking about faster commute from rural areas to large cities? For example, many people have recently left London, 1 million in 1 year, to move to rural areas. Maybe they think to come to the city few days a week. So we talked a little bit about that before. Do you want to extend?
Well, in Barcelona, there's a very interesting case on these kind of concepts that I will think that will increase. Actually, they are increasing. Is that either by train or by what we call Express.cat in Barcelona? It's like public shuttle services from one point to the other, 2 stops, pick up, deploy, that connect far away cities or rural areas with downtown, or at least the hubs, like where you have a lot of public transport like metro, bus, etc. So either with solutions such as ours that don't have that critical mass on a daily basis, like every hour, every day, or if you have demand all day long, you may have buses morning and afternoon, you may have car sharing, you may have public transport running around, or ultimately some sort of train or some sort of hyperloop solution. That always depends on how many people need that specific road. But people moving away from cities gives rural areas a very important factor, which is critical mass to create mobility solutions. So I think it's good for people to deviate from downtown into rural areas.
Yeah, I think that what we need to stand is these mobility as a service solutions that obviously were more concept to cities or metropolitan areas. I think we need to stand to the complete, region, for example, because at the end, what other people will, if you want to reduce the car use and the problem is not the car, is that the car is used by one person. That's the problem on mobility. That means that if we want to increase the average use of a car or of a bus, I think we need to have on-demand solutions. We need to have a platform when we offer services, and the services are basically not offered on demand. And obviously we have a solution for the problems, but always we need to see for the environmental impact, and the end what we want to reduce is the car usage of the private use.
I agree with Daniel there that the key goal must be to increase the occupancy of vehicles, and that's going to be now in the next few years with ride sharing, and also with enforcing that several people travel together. And there are different ideas to do that. And then in the future, using autonomous driving, no one needs to drive, but still there must be a number of people sharing a vehicle. Otherwise, this is not going to work.
Great. So I think we have answered all the questions, which is great. I think now we have to end it. Apologies for that. I know it's very interesting, but we have actually another chance. So now, speakers, please take a break. You have 10 minutes. The audience will go to discover the innovation platform of UAA, and then we'll see you again at 11:45, more or less, in the roundtable discussion. So the final roundtable with all the speakers together, which will be amazing. So see you there. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye. See you.
Bye.